audience. Hope you're doing well. So, I lowered the microphone a little bit. Yeah, I'm still feeling like self-conscious about my teeth, but like whatever. We're doing it. We're doing it live. So speaking of comments, somebody else commented that they want to see more, and I bumped the mic. Now it's too low, and I'm gonna hit it with my hands. Somebody commented that they want more Warhammer ASMR, and I only need one person to tell me to do it, and that person could be me, but it was somebody else. So now we have audience verifiable proof that the people want more talk about Warhammer, and I want to talk more about Warhammer because it's kind of what I've been obsessed with lately, and so we're going to talk about Warhammer today for a little bit. So, precursor to those of you who don't know what Warhammer is, Warhammer is a tabletop game played with miniatures. There are a couple different flavors of it. There is the sci-fi version, which is Warhammer 40,000, also often referred to as 40K. There is Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is more the fantasy realm. There is Warhammer Old World, which I don't even know what that is. There is Warhammer the Horus Heresy, which is basically 40K, but like with old version rules, I guess. I don't really know much about it. And then there's like some sub games like Kill Team and Warcry, which are like Kill Team is like a futuristic 40K, but it's tactical, squad-based, alternating operatives. It's like chess. It's like the Warhammer version of chess. And then Warcry is for the fantasy element of it. So the game is punishingly complex. The rulebooks are basically like textbooks, and each army has their own like super thick book. And then there's the core rulebook. But when you distill the game down, it's pretty simple. It's played in 5 turns, with each player getting 1 turn per turn. And there are phases. So the first phase is your command phase, where you will declare any sort of army-wide strategies that your faction might have. And then you will spend your command points, which you get some command points every turn. You will spend those for any strategies you might want to declare, things you want to buff your units with. And then you will move on to the movement phase. And in the movement phase, you will move all of your units, not all of the ones you want to move. That's your opportunity to move. And generally speaking, your only opportunity to move. Then you will go into the shooting phase, which you will declare targets based off of line of sight. Who can your little war guys see? Then if their range on their weapons is long enough, you can shoot. And then you roll the dice to determine shooting. And so kind of how shooting works is you'll have these data cards that'll say like, this amount of attacks, this is how strong it is, this is how well it does armor piercing, and this is the damage it does if it wounds. And rolls are done. You'll do 2 rolls, generally speaking. Sometimes there's a third one. But basically you will roll the number of attack dice you have, and you are trying to get your ballistic skill. So for example, if you have an intercessor, which is like the standard space marine, he will roll 2 dice and he's looking for 3s or better. So if you roll 2 dice and they both get 3s, those are hits. Then you will do a wound roll to see if your attacks actually wound the enemy. And to do that, there is a simple math equation that happens. You will take the strength of your weapon against the enemy's toughness. So in this example, we'll say an intercessor is shooting a different faction's intercessor. The strength of the intercessor's bolt rifle is a 4. The toughness of the other team's intercessor is also a 4. So because it is the same, you need to roll a 4 or better to actually wound. Now, where this changes. If my intercessor for some reason had a 5 strength against a 4 toughness, he would only need to roll 3s. And if he had an 8 strength, he would only need to roll 2s. But if he has a 3 strength against a 4 toughness, he would then instead have to roll a 5. And if he had his 4 strength weapon against a 8 toughness enemy, you would need to roll 6s. So that's kind of how shooting works. And then AP factors into the equation as well. So with the bolt rifle, it's -1 AP. And what that means is I roll the hit roll. I hit with both of my shots. I roll the wound roll. Both of my shots can wound. So now your opponent will roll his armor save, which with the intercessor will be another 3. But with AP, which is armor piercing, at -1, now his armor save needs to go up. He will need to roll 4s to save against the wounds. And if he doesn't roll 4s or better, then the wounds go through for the amount of damage, which I believe on a bolt rifle is just 1. So that's how shooting works in 40k. Pretty simple. I've explained it to you rather quickly, I think, and in a sort of clunky way. Once you play a couple rounds of it, it makes total sense. Like, it sounds like that's a lot of math, but it goes really quick and it kind of becomes intuitive. Anyway, after the shooting phase, you will move into what's known as the charge phase, and that is where you will declare which one of your units is going to try to move into direct combat with your enemies. And then you will measure how far they need to go, and you will roll 2 dice. If the number of the dice matches the inches, how far you have to go, then your team can then advance, or rather charge, and they will charge in to melee combat. And then you'll basically repeat the shooting phase, but with your melee weapons instead. After your melee phase is done, your opponent has a chance to fight back with his melee weapons. And that is the end of a turn. So that's kind of the basics of how the game is played. There are a number of ways you can score points. Generally speaking, you're not just trying to kill the other team, you're trying to do mission objectives, which can range from any number of things, but tend to be sort of a king of the hill sort of situation where you try to get to a place and you say, this is mine, I have more of my guys on it, I will score the points this turn. But then there are also secondary objectives, which don't really use the King of the Hill system. Instead, there'll be all kinds of things. So it could be kind of like have guys in each quarter of the board. So if you split the board in half and then in half, you want people in all 4 quarters. There's also things like assassinate, where you need to take out a high-ranking member of their team. And I'm drawing blanks now. Why can't I think of any other secondaries? There's just a number of things where sometimes, like, you get on a King of the Hill situation and you say, my guys aren't going to shoot, they're going to do this instead. And they do that and they score points that way. So that's how you score points in the game. And the game sort of becomes it's part you're trying to do your objectives while preventing your opponent from doing their objectives. And a good way to do that, obviously, is to kill that team. But if you're only killing them and you're not focusing on the objective play, you will end up losing, which is kind of what happened in my game today, where the opponent killed a lot more of my guys, but I outscored him by like 30 points. So I ended up winning just because I was playing the game. And it's fine because he was new. And he's happy to use his model, so, Oh boy. I had another point that I was going to go into. What was I going to talk about? Oh, so how does the game balance? You might ask yourself. Okay, well, basically each team has a budget, and it's a point system. And so the way they balance it is different units have different point values based off how strong the people that make the game think they are. And so you have 2,000 points to work with. Big tanks, robots are generally around 200 points. Little guys tend to be around, well, you take a squad of little guys, so it's usually like 75 to 80 points for 5 or 10 of them, depending on how tough they are, how good their weapons are, that sort of thing. Then you'll also have your high-ranking guys, and they can range, anywhere from like 50 points to, the really high-end guys are 400 or 500 points, because they're like the big guy for the faction. It's like, this is the chief, this is, like There's one team that's Chaos Demons, and they have like a big. The model is like the size of my fist, and his name's Angron, and he's basically just like the devil, basically. And it's like, okay, he's coming. And so there's stuff like that. So the game balances. You make up your own lists, and some people play what are known as fluffy lists, and some people play what are known as competitive lists. The fluffy list is basically just like, I think these models are neat, and so that's why I'm bringing them. And the competitive list is like, this is a finely honed list based off of the math that should do well in a competitive setting. And so, if you don't know, if you're playing like casual games, the spectrum tends to be somewhere in the middle, more toward the competitive side. But if you're playing in a tournament, almost everybody's going to be all the way to the competitive. They're probably going to have a set number of lists and like set plays they try to run with the lists, which makes it, a little less exciting. But then you think about like football and basketball, any sport is kind of like that, where one team will run the option and one team will do whatever the hell the opposite of the option is. I don't know football well enough. I know it well enough to say option plays or something in football, I guess. I don't know. You can comment and tell me where the analogy falls apart there. What else do we got to talk about with Warhammer? I feel like that's kind of it. Like, so the games take place on pretty big tables. It's like 6x4 board. You put terrain down. That there are like tournament standards for terrain, and there's different types of terrain that does different things based off what type of terrain it is. Some of it gives you cover. Some of it your guys can walk through, but not the tanks. Those are called ruins. Infantry can walk through it. Some units can fly, so they can just go over stuff. It's not a big deal. Some units are Titanic, so they can just step over stuff, and it's not a big deal. And the games generally, so if you're playing tournament, people will use chess clocks, and you have an hour and a half each, and you would flip the chess clock, and once you're out of time, you can't do any more moves except roll saving throws. But in casual play, we don't keep timers usually, and the games tend to last about 3 hours for a 2,000 point game, which today it was the guy's first game. It took 4.5 hours, which I'm just like, whatever, I'm just having a good time. So it goes, right? What else do I gotta talk about with Warhammer? I don't know. It's a great game. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And I'm probably gonna make more content about Warhammer on this channel. Somebody tell me my teeth are not weird. Sorry, that just popped in my head again. It's like, I think I just like being down here because I feel like I can't see my weird teeth. And I'm also really self-conscious about when I had shingles, I have scars from it. I used to be so pretty. I used to be so young. Now I'm getting old and crusty, which whatever, call old crusty ASMR. Old crusty Tingles. What's up? It's your boy, old crusty Tingles. Anyway, people make videos of the games. Those are called battle reports. I think I'm gonna try and make some ASMR battle reports because I think it would be weird. I don't know if anybody else is doing that. And if they are, they're certainly not doing it at scale. And I don't know if anybody even wants to watch that. But I think for the general audience, if you're watching ASMR to fall asleep, watching somebody else play Warhammer by themselves while they ramble about stuff, I think would probably do it for a lot of people. So I'm going to try it and see how that goes. And if it doesn't work out at all, well, at least I got a Warhammer game out of it. So still pretty good time. And if I make enough Warhammer content on this channel, then I think I can convince my accountant to let me write this stuff off as taxes. And this whole ASMR channel will stop being about trying to make money, and will be entirely about how can I turn all my hobbies into tax write-offs, which is not a bad goal to have because, that would give me a couple dollars that I could spend on more Warhammer. I have a whole shelf of guys over there, and I need more of them. And my girlfriend doesn't agree, but I need more of them. Oh, what did I hit? Okay, just that. Not a big deal. I got scared for a second. I was like, there's a person in here. No, it's just a thing on a stand. Not a big deal. Anyway, yeah, that is a quick real soon. Play some Warhammer. If you have questions about it, drop them in the comments, and I will answer them. And maybe I'll make another video. Ask me anything about Warhammer. I've only been playing 6 months, so I'm not like an expert. But if you want to talk Warhammer shop, drop a comment. Let's do it. Maybe I'll start a Discord for my Warhammer stuff. Also, I have a Warhammer YouTube channel that I say I'm just starting. I started it 6 months ago when I got into Warhammer, just to like kind of just document the journey sort of thing. And I think now that I kind of have a handle on the game, I want to be a little more active on it. We'll see if that actually ends up happening or not, because time consuming actually means writing scripts and stuff, which is, that's work, and not the kind of work I tend to enjoy. But I am dedicated to it, and if I get that channel monetized, then I could definitely write off my Warhammer stuff as tax expenses, and maybe Games Workshop will send me free stuff, which is awesome. It's kind of the end goal, is just to get sent free shit. Speaking of Zevia, where you at? Send me some free shit. But plugging you nonstop. They don't need the help. Every nutritionist is like, drink that instead of soda. Anyway, yeah. So I hope you're doing well, and if not, I hope that turns around for you real soon. And if you want it to turn around, then maybe you should start a revenge week like I did last week, and I am kind of sort of doing this week, but it's more about accomplishing it, more focused than a revenge week. It's a focused fire week. I don't have a name for it. It's nothing cool anyway. Yeah, that's it. See you next time.